Hello there, YouTube crew. I'm the real Dill, and today we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. The trailer's never quite sold me, but since it was made from the same guys behind Game Night, I had to give it a shot. It's quite good and really fun. There's awesome practical effects and makeup. CGI is consistently good, although I will say the miniature man technique wasn't very convincing. It's shot well and has some good music. Chris Pine also has a nice singing voice. The only thing that's really holding back this movie is the emotional weight that it carries. They have good conflicts for Pine, Rodriguez, and the sorcerer, but none of it's fully developed. The daughter for sure needed more screen time. Plus, her having more screen time means more screen time for Hugh Grant as well. Had they leaned more into each team member facing a conflict that Pine himself struggles with, that coalescence really could have elevated the story and the emotional impact of it. You have Michelle Rodriguez's character whose husband gives up on her because she's so hung up on how her tribe has abandoned her or kicked her out that she, in a way, has abandoned her own husband by refusing to move on and turning to thievery and this and that, and eventually landing in prison because of it, because she couldn't move on and be with him, actually. And like you kind of have the exact same thing going on with Pine and his daughter, although it's there in the movie, but it's not really mined for the connection that it actually has. Then Pine has a prejudice against a particular race in the movie that the druid girl, she has a prejudice against humans, but those two things never quite meet up. And her prejudice, it's really very surface. Like when she's first introduced, she's like, "Oh, I don't like humans because uh they were mean," or I mean, it's a bit more than that, but you only really get that in the introduction, and then it's brought up at the end. And she's like, "Well, I guess some of y'all are okay." When there's a particular sequence where Pine is put face to face with one of these guys that he thinks they're all evil, which it's due to the primary conflict of the movie. The particularly bad sorcery that's going on is what caused this to happen. He's faced with a guy who managed to just barely escape that same fate that his uh, countrymen had, right? And man, if you had seen a bit more of Pine coming to accept this guy from her perspective, if you get to see her see that change in him, that would have really one, it would have bolstered her role in the movie. She's the weakest of the four, story wise and character wise. Like, she gets to do some cool stuff, but she doesn't have the same internal conflicts that the other guys have. And like, so just seeing this angle through her perspective as well as Pine's would have, one, it would have brought a connection between them, but two, it would have bolstered her characterization as well. Then on the surface, Pine and the Sorcery Kid, they seemingly are complete opposites. Like, Pine is undeniably charismatic, while the kid, anybody can see in an instant that he has no faith in himself, right? Well, there's a scene where the team nearly completely falls apart, and Pine's character gives this confessional speech where at first he calls each one of them a failure, and he does it in a way that's supposed to, like, this is why we're belong together. And it leads up to, well, I'm the biggest failure of all, and he goes into what his actual motivation for is in the movie. And I really like that. That's the scene itself is perfect. It's really good, but it brings out the underlying insecurities that he has, and that's his connection to the kid. And so, like, I wish they had just built on that a bit more. I mean, they could have leaned into the just fake it till you make it kind of mentality, that kind of mentorship. Had they done that a little after this scene, built on that a bit more. I mean, like, most of this stuff is kind of there. It's just not mined to its full potential. Not only would these changes strengthen the emotional weight of specific beats of the story, but it also would have, like, fully developed the entire group dynamic. I mean, you have a central figure in Pine who's clearly the leader, and I really like that they didn't undermine his leadership and ability to formulate plans that much. some of the trailers, I was kind of a little worried, and some of the stuff that was said about the movie, I was a little worried that they were going to cut him down more, especially with Rodriguez's character. But honestly, I was genuinely shocked by how great his relationship, their friendship with Pine and Rodriguez is. Like it's very kind, it's very supportive in a good way too. It's not like this kind of like you shouldn't be supporting this much, but like it's a good uplifting friendship. And I'm really glad that that's where they went with those characters and with the team dynamic. But like as a whole, like if you have the central character of Pine and you have each one of the team members bring out an aspect of Pine that needs to be fixed in himself and in them, like man, that just strengthens the cohesiveness and why they brought together and why being brought together lifts them up, and again, like that's there in the movie. It's just not as good as it could be, and that's really what's holding this movie back. It's almost really really good, but it's kind of good. It's pretty good. Hugh Grant was good and well used, but like it didn't necessarily need any more time. But like because of the daughter was a little underdeveloped, he was a good character to continue building off of her and seeing, just slightly different aspects of her. And that really could have paid off or set up the final choice of the movie, which is a big choice to make that they put the work in right at the end, but like it could have been more built up throughout. Then the Red Wizards are, conquer the world type of villains, and they aren't that special of characters, but I will say they are well put into the movie. They unify the characters, both past and present, both in their past and their present, which I thought was really a smart thing to do. Now, the two best sequences in the movie is one's at close to the beginning. It's basically this: they're trying to receive a pardon, and it's this entire exposition dump, right? And like it could have been really like it could have been really bad, but the writers really made it clever in how personalized and characterized it was. And like you understand Pine more, you understand Rodriguez more, you understand the world more. I mean, like you get a lot of not just their backstory, but kind of what the world is like, what the central plot is kind of going to be. And like it could have been a drag, but it was done so well, and it builds into the best gag in the movie. It was an awesome scene. I loved it. And then the second would be it's right after that low point, the failure speech, and so then you have the team acting as a the actual team for the first time in the movie, and it's great. Like you get to see clever problem solving, you get to see cool uses of power. It's just really good fun. I do have one nagging nitpick, and that would be so spoilers a little bit. We see that that race I was talking about. Basically, there's these red wizards, and they had you cast a spell to basically zombify, enslave, uh, basically all sentient life, and they'd really captured this entire group of people, and with the one character escaping. Well, they're trying to do that again. Uh, they're trying to do that again, and just as it's about to reach this huge group of people, like a lot of the mechanisms that they do, they're using Hugh Grant to prime this place to be zombified, right? And they bring them all into this coliseum to watch the Sun Games, right? Well, the way they defeat that is they just get the people to run outside to get some gold, which admittedly it's a really good payoff to an earlier thing, and just the kind of hero's journey type of payoff as well. But we saw this thing like encapture a whole group of people. I just don't see how simply running out of the Coliseum makes the main Red Witch give up. Like it's the first step, right? Like this is where we get them out so we can have a little bit more time to counteract it. And I think the obvious thing to do is, I mean, they portaled in all the gold. Once the gold is runs out, then you portal to there's a focal point to this smoke tendrils essentially. And if you just place the portal there and portaled it in the meaningless direction of up, where it's not reaching anybody, all the remaining smoke that's like you build up the tension because it's closing in on the crowd, they who are now they've you this is how you do it. Uh, at first, they're running away from it to get to the gold, but now they're on the gold and the smoke is catching back up to them. But disconnected from the main source, it dissipates out, right? And then the Red Witch does a 1v4 with the team. Okay? Well, with that spoiler over, I think I'm going to end it. I genuinely enjoyed the movie. I don't know if you really like Dungeons and Dragons or you really like fantasy, go out there and watch it in the theaters. Otherwise, wait for it to come out on streaming. I think you'll really enjoy it, but you might not want to pay the theater ticket. I'm the real deal. Goodbye.